I hate anything that has to do with furries. I hate
You know,
anything that has to do
this
with
comment
furries.
helped
I
creating
hate
my
anything
persona
that has
here
to do
on
with
this
furries.
show. I was ready to have
anything
furries
that has
being
to do
my
with furries.
kryptonite.
I hate
But over the
anything that has to
years,
do with
I've been
furries.
suggested so
I
many
hate
awesome furry
anything
comics
that
that
has
I
to do
can't
with
help but
furries.
feel that my view on
hate
furries have
anything
changed.
that has to do with
I don't
furries.
hate
I
furries anymore.
hate anything that
And that
has
is
to do
why
with
I
furries.
must now go
I
back and
hate
face my
anything
pride.
that has to do with
I
furries.
must go back to
I
find the
hate
webcomic that planted
anything
the
that has to
seeds
do
of
with
hate of
furries.
furries in
I
my heart
hate
so long
anything that has
ago.
to do with
The
furries.
comic that was the
I
forerunner
hate
of me
anything
generalizing an entire
I
subgenre.
hate anything that has to do with furries.
Shouldn't you be wearing Pride's costume?
Oh, I'm wearing a bra under my t-shirt.
You... Wait... What?
Exactly. So sit down, get ready, cause this is about to get loud.
I see Baldy here got some balls all of a sudden. Let's take a look then, shall we? The comic starts out with Mora waking up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy. Afterwards, she makes sure to drop us a nice big bomb of exposition. She does, however, forget whether or not she wants to use quotation marks here and there, plus forgetting when to actually use capitalized letters.
You know, the stuff you learn in grade school.
As the keen observer will quickly realize, Mora here is always busting a nice huge pair of double Ds, despite overalls like that rarely to ever stick to your body like that. In fact, clothes don't work that way. It won't actively try and crawl down your cleavage. Anyway, Mora explains that she's the sole worker on the farm Les Linders that her parents left for her. However, being the sole resident and the sole worker on the farm, and the fact that the farm sticks to tradition, whatever that is, means that Mora is way behind other farms. She of course explains this while voguing it up. And so this is where I want to introduce you guys to the Las Lindas suicidal drinking game. The rules are simple. Every time something is super sexy for no reason at all, you take a shot. So, bottoms up. Oh, this was a bad idea. We move on to see Mora's mailbox being hammered by a rock and a stick, one of which I assume was thrown by the dude from Yu Yu Hakusho here as he runs away, yelling to Mora to run away from the monster. A little counterproductive, I gotta admit. We move on to an obligatory shower scene, take a shot, immediately afterwards. This is on the 5th page, which has got to be a new record, but anyway. Mora explains that she is always exhausted at the end of the day, whether she's standing up or laying down, that she's always so tense. That might be because of the huge boobs she's walking around with. This is when Mora comes up with a genius scheme to lure in some help, using the only thing she has to offer. Her words, not mine. If you guessed that this would be her charming personality, that's a penalty shot.
These are my rules, I make them up.
No, the solution to all Mora's problems is to go out there and slut herself up. Look out, world! Here comes Mora!
Never mind that shit. Here comes Mungo.
Now, a little history lesson. The term protagonist was first used in the ancient Greece. It comes from the word protagonistus, which means one who plays the first part, the chief actor. Typically, in movies or books or plays, the protagonist will be a character that the audience can empathize with. If the protagonist gets beaten up, you want the audience to feel as if they're beating up too. Now, this is not always the case, but it tends to be the main thing when it comes to stories that aren't exactly anything spectacular. The reason I'm bringing this up is because this right here is our protagonist. This is the one we are supposed to cheer on. this is supposed to be the one who we can relate to or identify with. She's a freaking stripper! So Mora goes to Gosama, the port city that for some odd reason too has a dumb big tower with magical stuff flying around for no other reason than it being interesting. Mora walks to the nearest saloon, and on her way people are staring and drooling. Also take a shot. So Mora starts finding her target, and I shit you not, the first one she looks at is a freaking pig in overalls, and she passes him by. He's the best person to be working at a farm, period. No, instead her eyes falls on these two, and boy oh boy do I wonder if these two are recurring characters. I don't know what makes me think that. Anyway, Mora steps up, or rather her huge bust does so, take a shot, and she confronts the cat Miles, asking if he wants to work for her. That's when she drops this sentence. Oh, there will be some hard work involved. Some pushing and lifting, plowing and seeding, taking care of the cows, and I assure you that it will be worth the time together. Alright, hold the fucking phone here. Cows. She said it. Cows. There will be taking care of cows. Now I'm not born yesterday, even though my flowy long hair might have convinced you otherwise. I know this is just to turn Miles on, and when she's saying cow, she's obviously referring to herself. Because of sex. I could take a shot. But let's take a minute to discuss what double entendre is. A double entendre is a figure of speech in which a spoken or written phrase is devised to be or is unintentionally understood in either of two ways. Meaning it can mean one of two things. So the obvious thing is that she wants Miles to think he is to come with her home and pull her boobs a little. But what I'm more interested in is that it must also be because there will be actual cows. Like real cows. Real big, massive, smelly, cute as balls cows. What I'm getting at is that Mora is here making a double entendre stating that she's an animal and that there will be more animals on the farm. But in this case it will be farm animals. You know, animals that you only keep on a farm and use to the purpose of farm work and stuff. So how is this not slavery? Anyway, Miles being a total transparent klutz obviously says yes. Or rather, he says a bunch of gibberish that Mora takes as yes, and they are off towards Mora's farm. It has, in the meantime, become night, and Miles honestly believes that they are going to a brothel, and who can blame him when Mora looks like this? You know a shot? Take it. So Mora and Miles are going over the finer details of the job, and Miles asks, like anyone would, how much he's going to be paid, to which Mora once more dodges the question. She then shows up in a tight robe, take a shot, and says the job will be its own reward. She then squeezes up against Miles and smacks him over the head with a frying pan, and we then cut to see Miles working the next day, being bossed around by Mora. So let me lay out Mora's plan here for you. Mora wanted to slot herself up, go to town, find a gullible sex-depraved twat, seduce him, bring him home, give him false hopes, knock him the fuck out, and force him to work for her without payment. A protagonist! The breakfast he then promised Miles he then has to make himself, which he manages to screw up, which Mora makes more than sure to point out. Miles, rightfully so, says, "Call me crazy, but I didn't ask to do this." Mora replies, "Okay, you're crazy. After all, you did follow me home." You freaking tricked him, you cow! You see, she's actually a cow, so I am allowed to say that. Mora and Miles go back and forth with how he didn't agree to work on Las Lindas, and Mora asks him what he agreed to. After all, prostitution is illegal in that country. She then uses the fact that Miles followed her home to blackmail him and force him to work on the farm. Otherwise, she'll tell people that Miles thought she was a prostitute and wanted to have sex with her, which would go on his criminal record. It takes two to a tango, you dumb bitch! If anything, you were the one making yourself out to be a prostitute. If anyone should be persecuted, it should be you! Actually, no, wait. Hold it! I'm not done with this. This is so dumb. In fact, it's so dumb, I actually did some fact checking, and in case you do use the service of a prostitute where prostitution is illegal, both parties will be facing jail time, heavy fines, and a permanent criminal record. In other words, Mora is just as much, if not more, in the wrong here than Miles. This is almost a worse plan than the first one to get Miles to the farm. But only almost. Obviously, Miles can't figure out the work on the farm, and Mora then leaves him to work while she goes to the city to find another sucker she can reel in. Why Miles doesn't just hightail it out of the farm while she's gone is but one of the many plot holes this comic has. On her way back, however, these dudes try to buy Mora's services. Giving them the cold shoulder, they start getting more aggressive and are obviously going to rape Mora, because, you know, that's good storytelling, who in the process has lost a teeny tiny bandana she used for her chest. Did she honestly sit down and think about this plan for more than half a second? Like, what the hell did you think would happen? I'm not trying to bring up the whole dressed like she was asking for it issue, but freaking look at her! Also, take a shot for the bandana. The rape, however, is halted by this big buff bull who beats the stuffing out of the culprits. This is done while we get a good butt shot of Mora. Take a shot. Afterwards, Mora's eyes grows for some odd reason, and she immediately asks the bull to help her on the farm, who seems to be losing his Ryu bag ever so often. For some strange reason, he agrees to help, just like that. On the way home, however, Mora gets tired and can't walk anymore. This is despite her working on a farm where most of her work consists of walking, and that she's been walking this route several times already. But it is, however, just an excuse to have the bull, without a word, I might add, sweep Mora off her hooves and carry her. So, back up for a second here. You, bull guy, you're going to walk behind a girl who was almost raped and, without a word, sweep her up and carry her. That's like kicking a person who almost drowned into the deep end of a pool. We then return to Las Lindas, where Mora introduces Minos the bull to Miles. Now, here's a little question. In what order would you read this? Like this, right?
Wrong!
Actually, it's like this. Yeah, I know. We are immediately introduced to Minos and his Hercule strength. We are not explained it, we're just shown it. So Mora, who should be recovering from a freaking rape attempt, is instead daydreaming about her and Minos getting married. You know, the guy she's known for less than 2 hours, I might add. Whoops, actually, this is apparently taking place days or maybe even weeks in the future. We don't know. So Mora is going on about how things are going her way and that she wants Minos to notice her, and she will do this by being more nice. Also, take a shot because of boobs sticking out further than her nose. Anyway, this is immediately halted by Miles asking for a raise. That's it. That's what is stopping her from being nice. That he wants to get paid for the work he's doing for her while she is slacking off and daydreaming. Moving on outside, Minos and Miles are building a fence. On asphalt, it seems. And they're going a little back and forth about why Miles is still on the farm, completely forgetting the fact that Mora is blackmailing him. Mora then brings the men who are working hard in the blazing sun some hot tea and shows up just as Miles says that she's a looker. While some people might take this as a compliment, Mora instead pours the hot tea on Miles' crotch. On his overalls. You know, the thing that is most of the time used as protective clothing. But hey, burn marks on the penis, that's funny, right? So Mora asks Minos on a date, but Minos insists they all go, which ends up in them heading to the saloon that Mora snatched Miles from. And Miles is... what? I think someone has to, like, unplug, wait 10 seconds, blow in the hole, and then replug Miles. It doesn't look too good. And hey, we haven't had a shot in a while, so you can choose if you want to take one for Mora's extremely low-cut dress, or taffy hair pushed out bust. Anyway, taffy hair is putting out the vibe hard, and the before clumsy and awkward Miles is now super suave and confident. Oh, don't worry, these characters will change so frequently that Jackie Diaz is asking them to slow down. Have that bottle ready, cause now Mora is putting the moves on Minos, because she assumed the only reason he was so silent around her was because he thought Mora and Miles were a couple. Her way of putting the moves on Minos, however, is by getting him drunk, but instead she is the one getting utterly shit-faced. This makes her strike all sorts of poses, and the size of her dress seems to change in size ever so often as well. Eventually she says, "I got a place you can stay, bully boy. Right here between myself and furry." And I've counted about 4 shots on this page alone. On the plus side, Miles got Taffy's number. If you're not dead yet, let me just remind you that we are only 25 pages in. The comic as it is now is over 400 pages long. But keep that freaking booze handy, folks, cause out of nowhere it's suddenly a beach scene where Minos is giving Mora a back rub and asks her if he can please her in other ways. But lo and behold, it was merely a dream.
It was all a dream!
Now, despite being hungover as balls, Mora still manages to dress herself up and cook Minos dinner. She's doing all this because Minos said he wants to settle down and wants a quiet girl. And so Mora is trying to trick Minos into liking her by acting like a cute and quiet girl, which is so unlike her that just acting it is almost making her throw up. New rule: every time I point out that Mora is our protagonist in disbelief, take a shot. Mora's moves, however, doesn't work, it would seem, as Minos says he'll choose whether to stay or not. Not an unsensible thing for him to say, really. After all, let's not forget, he decided to work here on a whim and has yet to be paid. What then follows is one of the most infuriating scenes I can remember in a webcomic. Having failed to seduce Minos, Mora instead seduces Miles, who just happens to come by. Also, take a shot. While seducing Miles, you are treated to her just calling Miles all sorts of stuff. My favorite being selfish. Mora then takes Miles to her room and humps the ever-living crap out of him, all while thinking that he's a loser and that he'd never make it this far with someone as good as her. And all of this is just to tell Minos just what he's missing out on. It's also gotta be said that we are seeing less skin on Mora while she's having sex than when she's just out walking about. Also, you can't make someone jealous if they don't care about you. Minos doesn't give a shit about you, Mora, so you fucking Miles and making sure he can hear it will only serve to annoy him, just like a noisy neighbor. Maybe you should think about your plans more than not at all. And if your goal is to annoy Minos, just walk up to his door and do this. What then follows is the day after, where Mora is straight up ripping Miles a new asshole. Not a single frame is spent without her calling Miles something new and making fun of him. Eventually she asks him to leave while saying the blackmail thing is over, seeing no one would believe that even a professional would sleep with him willingly. Now don't get me wrong, I don't like any of these characters. But holy hell, Mora can fuck right off. Miles is a huge shit later, but so far he's been working for Mora for free. And after the sex, he even wants to stay and work for her and is hoping for more. He obviously cares for her. When doing stuff like this where your character is questionable, you gotta at least leave a hint of redeeming thought in it. Something that makes you go, "Aw, I can kind of see where she's coming from, but she's handling it super wrong." But no! Holy hell! Has anyone who read this pile of shit ever stopped up and thought to themselves, this is our hero. This is who we are supposed to be rooting for. And even if, let's just say if you're reading this for other than the story and you just want to get your rocks off, it doesn't even deliver on that. It drops small hints, it teases you, but there's never any payoff or anything. Holy testicle Tuesday, what the... I think that's all I can say for this time. Join me next time for more Less Lindas. Someone hold my hair! So while I drink some water for my hangover, let's just talk about the awesome people who helped making this episode possible. First of all, we got Alix J. Alix J is working on a comic called Death's My Bitch. I couldn't find out anything about it, but I checked out her DeviantArt profile and it seems to be a lot of My Little Pony stuff. So if you're into My Little Pony, check it out. Another one is Shane Asher. Shane actually supported the last show, but I forgot to mention what comics Shane was working on. Shane is actually working on two, one of which is The Strays, which is basically a very bog standard typical superhero story, but with furries. But it does seem like Shane is putting his own personal spin on it. I talked a little back and forth with him and the art is really interesting, so check it out. And then we got Skidd, who is working on UberQuest. Skidd also helped me with the other episode, and like, UberQuest is the bomb, like really check it out. And last but not least, we got Richard E. If you want to support this show, you can head to the webpage you see at the bottom of the screen here. You don't have to, but every little thing helps, and I really appreciate any amount you want to play. And there's cool stuff in it for you too. So head on to my Patreon if you want, and if not, then thank you for watching. Bye bye.